Welcome back to another Night of Story Sunday. Going to be filming episodes 3 and 4 tonight for the VODs. Here with Misericorde, Volume 1. It's really good so far. It's really good. It's a really it hits the ground running. Characters introduced at a nice steady clip. Great music. I mean, listen to this. I'm just gonna fade out into the background for a second. Consider this the, opening credits. Misericorde Volume 1 had our first 2 episodes last week, the first week of Sunday Story here on Caprolog. Going back into it. As a quick catch-up, very fast, the POV of the story is from Sister Hedwig, who was the anchoress of the Lynbarrow Abbey, which was an abbey in North England in 1482, fictional place. The inciting incident that throws this story into play, there was a murder of one of the sisters of the abbey, and the superior, the woman in charge of the abbey, went to Hedwig as the anchoress. An anchoress, if you don't know, is someone who locks themselves away to devote their life to scripture and communing directly between scripture and person coming for advice. Kind of like the closest thing to a vessel between God and the world. In the abbey, does not leave, gets meals delivered to her, gets her clothes washed by other people and brought back. She only has one pair of clothes anyway. Goes to the bathroom and gets it sent away in a, bucket. And one day, the superior of Lynbarrow Abbey comes to the door and says, "You have to leave." And she's like, whoa, no, I don't. I dedicated my life to this. And the superior said, "No, you must. One of the sisters was murdered, and you are the only person that I am convinced didn't do it. Because how could you have done it? You've been locked away in here, literally locked away. She can't leave even if she wanted to." The superior has asked her to undercover investigate the circumstances and everything leading up to the death of this Sister Catherine, to basically get a second opinion, because they have a farm boy who is being investigated as the chief suspect, but nobody feels quite right about him being the culprit. And so until the bishop can arrive, and when the bishop arrives, the final decision, would need to then be made. Hedwig, our protagonist, is stepping out into the abbey for the first time in 1482 as a relatively free woman to one, just kind of immerse herself into this world that she has been so removed from, but also, as her primary objective, keep close eye and see if anybody is giving signs or tells of maybe hiding something to hopefully unravel the truth of Sister Catherine's tragic death. Really good so far. Really nice blend of this 1480s turn of the century into the 16th century style and visuals and just like harsh reality, but coupled with very contemporary prose and very fun, easily readable characters that I'm having a lot of fun with. So where we left off, Hedwig has taken her first bath as a free woman in the Abbey, is in Sister Catherine, the late Sister Catherine's old room, and is just kind of decompressing from her very stressful first day, riddled with anxiety, as I'm sure anybody would be, especially given her circumstances. Just hopefully trying her best to recalibrate and get ready for her first full day in the Abbey. Does chat know what Misericorde means? Yeah, it actually has 3 meanings. It is a small dedicated room within an abbey, or it is the place in a place of worship, like a chapel or elsewhere, for like a little ledge to sit on, or a small dagger, weapon, sword. And it's what started this story. The definition was the first thing that showed up on screen. Even if I was not completely refreshed in spirit, the bath certainly did wonders for me physically. I could no longer count each individual bone in my body aching at the very least. The noon bell rang. I stood up in the bath, scanning around for a towel of some sort. I spotted one, a simple piece of linen cloth, folded next to the habit Moira had washed for me. I stepped out of the bath while the bell was still ringing and dropped to my knees, resting my elbows against the edge of the tub with my hands clasped together. I began reciting the Psalms for Sext. Canticum graduum ad te lavabebe. Hello? I wheeled around with a start, twisting into an uncomfortable position, attempting to cover my shame and turn to face my visitor at the same time. Oh, goodness, I'm so sorry. I was just coming to tell you to collect you for luncheon. It's all right. I was just reciting the office. Really? Which one? Sext. The noon office. Do you not... Oh, yes. Well, since we break for luncheon at midday, we roll that one into prime. This was deeply embarrassing for several reasons. I rose to my feet, strategically covering myself. Moira politely held a hand in front of her eyes. Did I interrupt it then? In the chapel? I would never blame you for it in that sense, but I began drying myself off with the towel, pressing it against my hair gently and hastily running it along my body. I must confess that I'm a little behind on all the offices today. I slept through the matins as well. Matins? Oh, don't worry yourself about that. We were all matins in the prime as well. What? I flung the towel to the ground in shock, so dismayed as I was. Moira, still holding her hand in front of her face, let out a nervous giggle. It's fairly normal as far as I know. We have morning prayer and evening prayer. If we spent all day following the hours to the letter, we'd never get anything done. Or any sleep at all. Hi, Jackie. Hello, Raiders. Welcome in. You chose quite a night to be here. Welcome to the Sunday Story Night 2. Kick back, relax, wind down your weekend with a nice visual novel. We're reading Misericorde, Volume 1. I'm in black and white tonight. If you would prefer to catch up, because this will be episode 3, VODs are on YouTube. This is a new Sunday series that I'm going to be doing every Sunday night following visual novel and narrative-driven adventure games in full. So this is a full, no interaction, no inventory screens, no world management, no menuing. Just me hanging out in black and white reading a story. Welcome in, everybody. Jackie, I was having so much fun with Twilight Princess tonight. I forgot how much I loved the, feel of that game. Visually and sounds, very specifically the sounds of Twilight Princess are really strong. All of the UI element sounds, the character voices, the clanging of... Somebody had mentioned, I think in yesterday's stream, when you open a door for the first time in a long time and you can see the dust and dirt fall off of the chains and the off of the bars. Really, really, really cool. Loving it. So welcome in, everyone. I'm going to get going back here. I don't want to distract too much from the story at hand, but, grab yourself a cup of tea, wind down, absorb a nice story. This is called Misericorde. This came out in 2023. This is the story of a murder at an abbey in 1482 North England. And one of the sisters, one of the nuns, was murdered, and our character is the anchoress, meaning that she was unable to leave her cell. She devoted her life to absorbing scripture and providing direct consultation privately and anonymously with the people who would come and seek her aid. She has been requested by the Mother Superior of the Abbey to leave her post after decades in isolation and step out into the Abbey for the first time, because she is the only one that can be 100% wholly trusted that she did not commit this murder. And it's fascinating so far, just this juxtaposition of a very, very devout, holy, scripture-driven person and the almost, I don't want to say quite schoolyard, but workplace drama and feuds and spats between the other members of the Abbey. It's fascinating. So welcome in, everybody. I'm gonna get back to this here. If anybody in my stream is not following Jackie, you absolutely should be. If anybody here is not following me, you absolutely should be. I stream Sunday through Thursday. This is the Sunday Story stream. Our main game right now is Might and Magic Book 1, Secret of the Inner Sanctum from 1986 on the Apple II. My stream is very dedicated to game history as well as really just deeply appreciating whatever comes at me and taking it in for what it is. Chosen at random through marbles on stream. I didn't pick this. I didn't pick Might and Magic. I think that's all I got. I know, so humble. I know. I gotta advocate for myself a little bit. Yeah, you should be. Who cares? You follow me, and then you go oh, you know what? This actually kind of sucks. You just unfollow me. That's fine. I'm gonna get back into things here, but thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jackie. Enjoy the rest of your night. Were you really getting up in the middle of the night to pray? Yes. And dropping everything to recite Psalm throughout your day? Yes. My goodness, that's so unfair. The Superior never told you how the monasteries condense the hours. The bishop didn't either? No. I find it hard to believe, to be perfectly honest. How often do you take communion? Oh, whenever the bishop's here, so every few months or so? This almost knocked me back onto the floor. I was used to receiving communion once a season, but I had been under the impression that I was a unique case. My needs differed from the rest of the sisters. I'd been in a permanent and all-encompassing relationship with God. These women didn't seem to have the same devotion. I finally remembered that I was standing there like a fool and began to put my fresh clothes on. They smelled and felt lovely. Little dried leaves fell out of the sleeves and robe as I lifted them. I bent down to pick one of them up after I'd slid the cloak over my head. Although they're from our garden. Aren't they nice? Extremely so. You really don't recite the hours as written. This isn't, I don't know, a prank? Why would I pull a prank on you? I have no idea. The superior just put the idea in my head, I suppose. I mean, at morning prayer. Oh, of course. Flora's the one to watch out for. She's full of youthful vigor. Or Dorothy. Or, Catherine. Or Margaret. She looked sheepish. I can see why you might be wary of a practical joke, but please believe me when I tell you that condensing the hours into morning and evening prayers is fairly standard around the monasteries these days. In fact, I think it might have been for a long while now. I suppose I'd have no way of knowing otherwise. And it's accepted? I don't think anyone's ever gone to hell for rearranging their calendar, if that's what you're asking. You dressed now? Just about. Moira lifted her hand from her eyes. And would you look at that? Fresh as anything. Thank you so much for washing them. Oh, don't mention it. Hopefully you're feeling a bit better now. Once we get you some lunch, you'll be as good as new, I reckon. I'm looking forward to it, but Well, this might sound silly, but if I go to evening prayer tonight and do the rest of the hours, I still won't have caught up. Would you mind if I at least finished sext? Oh, no, not at all. Thank you very much. I never actually prayed for an audience. Would you like me to join you? Yes. Well, that'd be lovely, actually. Moira beamed and walked over to the tub I'd been using. She kneeled as I'd been kneeling earlier, and I joined her. The pleasant scent of leaves in the bath still lingered above the water. I'm not even going to attempt the Latin. We completed the liturgy and left in silence. I felt bolstered by the light of prayer, and the bath and fresh clothes had left me feeling warm and content. Moira strode in front of me, leading me to the rectory. When we arrived, I took a deep breath. Bathing in prayer rejuvenated my body and spirit, but I was still nervous about facing everyone, both because of the harrowing incidents of the morning, but because of my mission. I hadn't forgotten, I just had no idea how to begin. The rectory was a long room with a high ceiling. A large, aged table, already laden with plates, ran the length of the room. All the other sisters were there, and Superior was standing at the head of the table, appearing to hold court. Ah, wonderful. Are you feeling any better? Yes, very much so. Moira beamed and gently guided me to the foot of the table, where a stool was waiting. Oh, I couldn't. Please, sit. So that everyone may be introduced to you, properly this time. This was the last thing I had wanted, to be perfectly honest, but I obeyed. You smell nice. Thanks. You've already met Sister Darcy, of course. She tends to the garden and the livestock, and is something of an alchemist.
I prefer the title Alchavisionist.
Of course. Sitting next to her is Eustace.
Charmed.
Eustace is our sacristan and librarian. We actually have a great many rare books stored here that need taken care of.
And read, most importantly. Not all of them have been cataloged.
I'm sure you and Eustace will get to know each other very well. She will be of great use to you as our new chronicler. This is Sister Flora. She's our youngest oblet. She's 17.
I'm 19.
Are you really? My goodness, time flies.
I wish. I've been stuck here for 5 years now.
Now really? Stuck?
Yes. Stuck.
Well, she's not yet found her calling, but the youthful spirit of rebellion gives Flora the energy to help out with various tasks around the Abbey. You've met Moira already, of course.
Yes, indeed.
Moira's our infirmary, and also serves as chamberlain, and our hosteler in the rare occasion that we have visitors.
I'm the closest thing to a doctor here without, well, being a doctor, you know? Without having a man here, you mean? Thank goodness for that, eh?
A polite laugh went around the table. On your right, Hedwig, is Sister Marta. Marta has actually had many roles here, even before I was the prioress. She was the chronicler before our last, and has also been our cantor.
You could just say that I'm old. It's no secret.
I wouldn't dream of it. You have too much wisdom, and many surprises left in you, Sister Marta. What do you do nowadays?
I try to enjoy what's left of my life, dear.
You run the cellars, you mean?
I said what I said.
And a damn fine job of running the cellar you do, I'll say. And this is Sister Charity, who is, rather fittingly, our head almoner. Although there's not much of head to be done around here, I'm afraid. So I mostly strive to do the same as Marta here. You help in the cellars? I enjoy life. Next is Sister Margaret. We've met already. Margaret is another almoner, and also helps in the cellars. I'm a presenter as well. I helped Catherine a lot with her writing. Margaret is very talented. She was also our first foreign oblet. Thank you very much for explaining that on my behalf, Soup. Anyway, it's not completely true. It is completely not true, in fact. Sister Adela. I thought you were born in Spain. I indeed was born in Spain, which is another country.
I was born in Spain as well.
What I meant was... Oh, this should be good. Do you actually know where I was born, Soup? Don't call me that. And of course I do. You're our first oblet from... outside the usual...
Here.
The typical sphere of people who devote themselves to the monastic life.
Whole world's a sphere, Your Reverence.
That is so true, Darcy. Listen, I'm just a nun doing my little part to spread the faith around the whole globe, which is the entire purpose of being one, or so I'm told.
And I'm Irish.
Yeah, that's wonderful, Moira. I apologize. Well, I did not mean to offend. I simply meant that... No offense taken, Soup. I'm sure that Hedwig knew what you meant.
Well.
Tough act to follow. And you've of course met Catherine. Her name's spelled with a K, but when we're speaking, we referred to her as Catherine I. Our old chronicler was Catherine II. Oh, Catherine I, Catherine II. Got it. Catherine the First, Catherine the Second. We had a little contest for it, and, Catherine the Second was very gracious in defeat. Crying shame what happened to her. Catherine is our... come to think of it, Catherine, what is your title? I dabble. And this is Sister Adela. She was actually our newest oblet before you decided to join the congregation. And that's right. It feels good to move up a rank. Adela's not really settled into her role quite yet. Like Flora, she helps out wherever she can. And finally, we've met already. I gulped. I'm the prioress. My second in command. We sat in silence for a moment.
I'm from Wales.
Thank you, Darcy. Well, now that we're all caught up... Everyone's heads bowed instantaneously. I hastily lowered my head as well to join in the hushed whispers. Let us eat. On my plate were 2 thick slices of bread, far thicker than I'd ever been given in my cell. There was some kind of boiled meat and a crumbly hunk of white cheese. I glanced around, everyone already digging in with their fingers, and I followed suit, starting with the bread. It was light and fluffy with a crisp crust. A finger appeared above my plate suddenly.
Duck.
What?
The meat. It's duck. With herbs.
From your garden?
That's right.
I pinched off a piece and marveled at how juicy it was. I put it in my mouth and was overwhelmed. Wow!
I helped. Yeah, you killed the duck.
Well, yes.
Because you cry if you have to do it. That's right. I raise them and name them, and I love them. You really shouldn't do that for starters. Name them? Yes, or love them. I'm good at names is the thing. That's true. And once I've named something, it's impossible not to love it.
What was this duck's name? I'd offer my compliments. If they were still alive anyway.
No clue. She doesn't let me tell her which ones are being slaughtered.
Hang on, but you'd still...
Yes, she figures it out eventually when she checks in on the animals. Look, it makes sense.
How does it make sense, Darcy?
I'm gonna be a little sad about it no matter what, but I can't stop it from happening. But I can't put it off, so I'm not sad about it until at lunch, which is a horrible time to be sad.
Does knowing you're gonna be sad later not make you sad now?
Nope.
Why?
Because the duck tastes good.
Nobody seemed to be able to argue with this logic. That's our Darce.
That's our Darce.
Everyone continued eating in silence for a moment.
And how do you tell the difference between the animals? Knowledge.
I shuddered involuntarily all of a sudden as I felt a hand beneath the table tapping my knee. I looked over to my right at Marta, who smirked. She tapped my knee again as the others continued their conversation. Is it difficult killing those ducks?
Not really. They're not much of a match for me if I'm being honest.
I suppose you have a knife in that situation?
I assure you I could easily defeat a duck even without a knife.
And what about 2 ducks?
Absolutely. 3? Again, definitely. I think you're all really overestimating how much damage a duck could do to me. I'm an adult woman.
The tapping on my knee continued. She, still smirking, tilted her head down, indicating that I should look lower. I did, and saw that she was holding a handful of something. Understanding finally, I held out my hand. She nodded and returned to her meal. Ducks can be, really mean. Have you ever even seen an angry duck?
Yes. Well, they don't love being killed, funnily enough.
What, they can, see you coming? They know that they're about to die?
I don't have to ambush them if that's what you're wondering. They usually figure it out by the time I pick them up by the neck and put them on the chopping block, though.
How would one sneakily attack a duck?
Very easily, probably. They're ducks.
But you don't attack them that way.
Correct.
Why not?
Again, I feel like you're all severely overestimating the power of a single duck and underestimating me, a fully grown woman.
And how many ducks would it take before you think you'd lose?
I could defeat every duck. It's simply not a problem for me.
Every duck? In the world?
Come on. I could defeat infinite ducks. They're small and they have little necks. I could kill a duck by accident. It simply doesn't require any measurable amount of my strength.
You'd get tired eventually.
I would not.
You're talking as if they're ants. Listen, I think it requires a little more energy to kill a duck than an insect. Especially if there were a lot of them at once.
I would swing my arms.
I'd kick out my legs.
A group of ducks would crumple immediately in a fight against me.
Okay, now I'm thinking about you killing a lot of ducks. And it's making me really sad because now I'm imagining you killing all the ducks. And now I'm looking after the huge kicks and the punches, and I love the ducks. I hate this conversation now.
I'm sorry, Darcy. I didn't mean to upset you. We're speaking hypothetically here. I'm not going to kill all of your ducks.
That's okay. Thank you, Eustace.
She's not gonna kill all of them at once anyway.
Just the ones we need for food.
She's trying to get out of it. She thought we wouldn't notice. Hedwig. Madam? She stood up, holding her empty plate. I would like to see you in my office when you've finished eating. I didn't know what they were. I just stuck my hand out. I beg your pardon? Oh, nothing. Silence.
They're just dried apples, dear.
Oh. What? Come on, Marta, give me some too. Absolutely not.
You've been a little cunt lately.
Marta!
Crone. Gutter snipe. Ronyan.
That's enough! The superior looked irritated. Flora and Marta looked as if they were having a grand old time. Hedwig, I'd just like to speak with you privately about your new duties as chronicler. Now that you're feeling better. Oh, yes, of course. Thank you. One of the others will show you where my office is when you're ready. She strode out of the room, magnanimously. Take your time, and enjoy the rest of your luncheon. I started nibbling on some cheese. Everyone was watching me. I'm happy to share the apples, if you'd all like. There was a dull roar of agreement from everyone in the room, all except for Angela, who had been pretending to ignore everyone for the entire meal. I broke up the handful of dried fruit into 2 piles and passed to either side of me, keeping 1 piece for myself.
Thank you kindly.
So now that the old elder ma'am's gone,
Do tell us about yourself.
I realized that even now, after I had no more candied fruits to give, everyone in the room was staring at me with intense interest. Oh, well, I don't know what I could say that I didn't say this morning.
What did you even say this morning?
I must admit, wiping up your sick has overridden any memory of what you said prior. So sorry. Catherine shrugged, Catherine shrugged, smirking. Margaret waved a hand. It gave us a chance to... Ow! A chance to reflect on the nature of servitude to God or whatever, and so on. I could see Angela raising one of her eyebrows out of the corner of my eye. Anyway, hey, Hedwig's adapting wonderfully. She had some trouble with the stairs, but got the hang of them quickly.
I imagine you probably have some trouble with stairs if you'd been locked in a little room for that long.
Yeah, whereas we're all locked in a big room, aren't we? With each other for company.
Locked is a strong word, Catherine.
You're right. As usual. We aren't locked in. The hill's more like a moat.
Honestly, you sound just like Flora sometimes. Or a hill. I'm not sure the metaphor is necessary.
Metaphor? That's a big word. As expected, however, from our little resident librarian cum butcher.
On the subject of ducks, I was merely speaking in hypotheticals.
Oh, another good word. What doth hypothetical mean, Eustace?
I regret saying anything.
I'm being earnest.
It means mind control.
You're thinking of hypnosis.
3 for 3. A loud jeer went up around the table.
Darcy, let me out, please.
Eustace scooted her chair back with a loud squeak and stormed out of the room. Ah, come on, Eustace. Eustace, please come back. Perhaps this is rich of me to say, but I think you lot don't know when to lay off sometimes. I don't understand in this case. 1 minute she's talking about fighting ducks, and now she's upset we're joking about fancy words. It's just bad timing, I think. She is doing her best, but she's quite torn up. We all are. It's horrible. Hedwig, dear, if you don't know, I know. As I said, she was joking about killing ducks. I would have thought that would have been worse than joking about words. You're young. It's never the obvious things that remind some folk of grief past. Eustace is the librarian, and, well, Catherine the chronicler, of course. Peas in a pod they were. Not just them. We all miss her very much. Listen, it isn't a competition. Flora looked as if she was about to mouth off in response, but at that moment, Eustace re-entered the room, carrying a large wooden bowl.
What the hell happened in here?
We were wondering where you'd gotten off to. We were worried you were upset. Eustace said nothing as she walked to the table with the bowl, smiling gently.
Sunday Nut Day.
Thank you, Juno. That's playing dirty, Eustace.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I forgot I'd made this to celebrate our newcomer, that's all.
I believe you.
Gaylead?
After you'd had all that candied apple? Goodness. Thank you, Hearts. Thanks for gifting us up to Polycubic. What's Gaylead?
Puddin'.
Eustace ladled out the sweet-smelling treat onto everyone's plates. When it was Angela's turn to be offered some, she'd pushed her chair back and stood up, jolting the entire table forward and causing everyone's plates to wobble. Darcy and Moira had to hold on to their dishes to keep them from spilling over onto their robes. Is everything all right, Angela? No. With a glare that seemed to lock with every pair of eyes in the room, Angela stalked out of the rectory hall. I doubt she'll be coming back with puddin'. I was in considerably higher spirits after eating. I excused myself after finishing the Gaylead. I got a little self-conscious about how long I was taking to meet with Superior. Even though there had been a few awkward moments, I didn't really want the conversation to end. Still, feeling like I should be responsible and punctual, I excused myself partway through a continued discussion about what animals Eustace could best in hand-to-hand combat. Nancy, thank you for gifting a sub to Axel. Thank you so very much. Thank you. Darcy helpfully volunteered to show me to the office. It was on the first floor, further down the hallway she'd taken me down on the way to the kitchen and bath.
Here you go.
Thank you. And thank you again for the mint as well. And for showing me around before.
Oh, and I helped to cook lunch.
Oh, well, thank you for that as well.
I didn't make all of it, but enough that it's sad to not hear a thank you from the others, and it's nice to hear that you say it.
Well, in I go.
In you go.
Enter. I opened the door and slipped inside. Darcy watched me with a big grin still plastered to her face. Thank you so much for the hype train, everybody. The Superior's office was small, but meticulously kept. It was rather plush compared to the rest of the rooms that I had seen so far. A grand window looked out into the garden, and there was a door off to the left that I presumed to lead to the private bedchamber. The Superior herself sat at a thick oaken desk in a rather ornate chair. How are you feeling? Much better, thank you. Good. How has your morning fared? Setting aside your little fainting spell, I rummaged around in recent memory for a reassuring anecdote. Oh, it has been an interesting experience. I managed to run straight into Sister Angela on the way into the chapel, and Sister Catherine introduced me to Sister Margaret. Aha, those two. Try not to let them rope you into any schemes. No, of course. They're both incredibly adept at sneaking around. Both of them have managed to scare me witless with their creeping. I'm relieved that I'm not alone, then. Indeed. Do you have any leads yet? Leads? Any idea who could have killed Catherine yet? Any hint at all? Anything to follow up on? No? That is a pity. Mother Superior, I've been out of my cell for all of 6 hours, if that. For much of that time I was ill, and then I was asleep, and then alone in a bathtub. What clues could you possibly expect me to have already? Did you really think that someone would slip up and tell me over lunch? No. I suppose I shouldn't have counted on anything quite so miraculous happening. She turned around and stepped toward a large window. Some thorny bushes were growing underneath, and a few trees dotted the path between the building and the garden. Light and shadow danced across her habit as she paced back and forth, slowly. I don't even know how Catherine died. I've heard some mournful whispers from the sisters I've met, but I haven't a clue to what actually happened. When did she pass? How? And where's her body? Sister Catherine was found in the cloister on the first morning of November. She was laying on her back with a sword plunged into the earth just above her. Her head had been cut off and arranged in her hands. It was ghoulish. So that's what was in the grass. I thought it was a crucifix. Yes. No one, least of all me, could bear to remove it. It's become something of a monument to Catherine, I suppose. Rather grim. A bloodied sword feels like an awful way to remember someone. You'll get no argument from me, but these women are strange sometimes. That would be true regardless of my suspicions. That said, the blade is actually clean. It was clean even when we found it. It was? Yes. Angela found the stable boy hiding in the yard without a speck of blood on him, but Sister Darcy discovered his cloak elsewhere. It was quite tarnished, and Angela surmised that he'd used it to wipe down the blade before attempting to flee. was a sound theory at the time. I have my doubts now, though. And who found the body? Sister Charity, on one of her morning walks. The round woman you met at lunch. Hey, don't call someone round. I don't mean it as an insult. Go up, thou bald one. What? What happened to Catherine's body? If you're hoping to play surgeon and examine her for clues, I'm afraid she's already been interred. I understand. This was actually a small relief. As determined as I was to find Catherine's killer and help bring them to justice, a dead body was the last thing I wanted to see. Where was she buried? The cemetery is a short hike from here, on the hill. I can have one of the sisters show you there, should you feel the need to visit. Say a few words. Not that you could have known her, I suppose. What a great idea. What if the murderer, since you don't believe it was the suspicious boy with the blood on his shirt, decides to off me as well? Perhaps while taking me on a pleasant hike. Alone? Up to this cemetery? I must say it feels rather difficult involving myself with the others when you've directed me to spy on them. You make it sound so ugly. We are seeking justice, and I had no choice in the matter. I'm sticking my neck out based on your intuition. Let's not fight about it. What's done is done, and you are no longer an anchoress. You're free to do whatever you wish once the killer is captured. I was perfectly happy where I was. Don't be ridiculous. You might as well have been a prisoner. If that were so, I'd have been your prisoner. I really, truly do not want to fight about this. Yes, so you keep saying every time I question something. Stop! Giving me this insolence! By God, where is the awkward little titmouse who introduced herself to service this morning? She's standing in front of you, rather upset about the situation that she's been thrust into. You're not but a bratty child. A woman, a member of our family, had her bloody head cut off, and all you can think about is your own comfort. These people are not my family. You least of all. I am your superior. I am your abbess. And you are my charge, and you will do as I say. I have been as accommodating and kind as I possibly can in asking for your assistance, but make no mistake. I do not need to ask, nor will I in the future if I require something from you. Latin. Latin. Thank you for the follow. I'm neither an ant nor sluggard, Abbess. I will respect your wishes as my superior, but I'm not a soldier awaiting your commands. Are you surprised? I must admit I surprised myself at this moment as well. Maybe my humors were still off kilter. Maybe I was tired of feeling meek and embarrassed all morning. Perhaps I, free from myself for the first time in many years, was trying out some new behaviors to see how they fit me the way one tries on a new cloak at the market. Or maybe, just maybe, it was something else. Do you think Darcy could have been right when she said this place was haunted? I am sorry. Once again, I am being unfair. Please try to understand. I have so much love for this place. These halls are my responsibility, and if it all falls apart, I don't know what I'd do. If you truly believe the stable boy did not do it, I could so easily throw him to the wolves. Don't you see? I do not mean to throw you to them in his place. I mean to take the more difficult path here. I would rather stake my reputation on seeking the truth than condemn an innocent boy for my own gain. It would not be right. I understand. I could feel myself becoming smaller, meeker again, deflating like an empty water skin. If you want me to start truly investigating things, well, I need somewhere to start. I can't just hope to stumble into the answer. May I speak with the accused? The stable boy in the hospitalum. An obvious, but nonetheless an excellent idea. I felt so trapped by my position leading the convent, despite this investigation ultimately being my responsibility. I didn't dare think of involving myself so directly, but you could speak with him. I will take you to the hospitalum. In secret, of course. I'll arrange a time and send for you under the pretense of more chronicler business. I would still pose my first question to you again, however. Think hard. Has anything stuck out as particularly unusual to you?
Everything's unusual to me.
I was fighting back tears now. Meek.
Everything.
Did Catherine tell you I barely made it down the stairs this morning? In my mind, I knew what stairs were, but I can't remember if I'd ever actually walked up or down any before today. It will take some time to adjust, and I'm not sure if I ever will fully adjust. Have faith. If I could offer one small observation, at least. If there's anything I find strange, it's how calm everyone seems. So you felt it too. I'm glad it was not just my own superstition. Everyone seems happy. Especially at luncheon, they were joking and laughing. I suppose I'd have no way of truly knowing, but the congregation certainly isn't behaving the way I'd expect them to, knowing one of them just died. It is odd, isn't it? Yes, I suppose your instincts weren't wrong in asking for my help. I changed the subject quickly. I didn't want the superior to think I was happy with her choice and with my situation. God forbid. Oh, a question. Is it true the hours are compressed here? A morning service and an evening office that encompasses every office? Yes. That is fairly standard in most monastic communities nowadays. Why didn't you tell me that? My cell wasn't far away, and you knew how to use the stairs. The bishop forbade it. Why? Because an anchorite's entire purpose is to do the things that normal people cannot. She was right. I tensed and untensed my hands a few times, unsure what to do with myself. I was to bear burdens no one else was expected to, all alone in there. And you thought otherwise? I don't know. I suppose I never really considered it. I just read scripture and theology all the time. I had an idea in my mind of what an abbey was supposed to look like, and I thought even if my role was different, everyone else's would at least be similar. Things are very different when you have responsibilities. The day-to-day tasks of earthly life, as much as the monastery reduces them to their basics, are still quite time-consuming. Animals must be tended to. Food must be grown and prepared. Work arises and must be done. Besides, you had your own work to do. You had books to copy, scripture to commit to memory, prayers for the townspeople to amplify. What? You were given written prayers to say for people. I know, ho. Welcome in, Raiders. Welcome in. Settle in. Get yourself a cup of tea. Hang out. We're reading Misericorde Volume 1, a visual novel from 2023. Loving our time with it. It's so good to see everybody. Totally appreciate the raid. No-ho. Hope you had a fun night. What were you playing tonight? I'm in the zone. We're in reading mode. Our Sunday streams from here on out are going to be story streams. So settle in. Make yourself cozy. If you don't know me, I'm Capralog. I'm a first playthrough streamer of games chosen at random through Marbles on Stream with a dedication to game history and appreciation. Playing Keep Driving. Nice. I've seen really good things about that game. Awesome. I'm glad you had fun with it. You were given written prayers to say for people. That was one of your core duties. I was given no such thing. Now is a very poor time for jokes. I'm being completely serious. I have no idea what you're talking about. I copied books, I prayed the hours, and I was never given anything else to pray for, save the occasional visitor to the Agioscope's prayers. She gave me a piercing, icy glare. Then, as if a set of strings holding her upright had been cut, she collapsed into her chair. I don't understand. We are very far away from the nearest village or town here. Nonetheless, we are here, and we serve the people of Linbarrow and their needs. Offer them with help with their prayers. Of course. I would have happily done so if I had received any. Because we're up on this hill, we're sent supplies from the village. Things we can't grow ourselves. Essentials. The occasional holiday luxuries, and so on. She reached down to a drawer under her desk, pulling out 2 small cups and a carafe. She uncorked the container and poured some dark liquid into both cups. Wine. Drink up. She slid one of the cups towards me with her own. I took it gingerly. I had, of course, had wine before, but this smelled different. This is nicer than anything you've had brought to you, I'd wager. One of the aforementioned occasional luxuries. Drink it, please. I braved a sip. She was right. It was different. For one thing, it was quite strong. The superior took a big swig of hers and continued. When you were brought here and made to take the vows, one of the first things that crossed my mind was how inconvenient it would be to expect the people of the village to trek up here every time they had needed spiritual aid. Why, it'd be positively cruel to make children walk all the way to the anchoress themselves. Old men with walking sticks. You get the picture. And since we are all the way up here on this lonely hill, I thought, why? I know what would make things easier. I offered the townsfolk a simple idea. They're an educated sort down there, you see. Not like us, or, well... She waved her cup towards the door. More than them. So I told the people to write their prayers down. Give them to the young man who brings our supplies. We'll sort through them and pass them on to the anchoress here. And did they? I saw the envelopes, yes. Many times. I don't understand. The abbess took a final pull from her cup and slammed it back on the desk. Giving those letters to you was Catherine's responsibility.
Oh, nice. I recognize that tower. We got ourselves a wrinkle, folks.
Welcome in, Raiders. Welcome to Misericorde. This is the story of an abbey in 1482 England, where one of the sisters of the abbey was murdered. Thank you so much for the follow. One of the sisters of the abbey was murdered, and the only person that could be trusted to not have done it was the anchoress of the abbey. The anchoress is someone in a convent that locks themselves away from the outside world and dedicates their lives to being a direct vessel of contact with Scripture and the Lord. Basically, sensory deprivation faith. Because of this murder, because of the nature of nobody able to be trusted, the superior, who you just heard us talking as, unlocked the anchoress's chambers and said, "You are no longer an anchoress. I need you to undercover investigate this abbey because no one is to be trusted. Someone here could be the killer, and you're the only one that it obviously couldn't be because you've been effectively in a cage." So we have a character that is adjusting to a social life, adjusting to a physical life, adjusting to new societal norms, while at the same time holding one of the most important responsibilities of effectively exonerating a poor farmhand boy who has been kind of framed isn't the right word, but is currently the chief suspect of this and has to determine if it's truly this farmhand boy, because if it isn't, they're effectively setting him up as a scapegoat to die. And it's really good so far. Settle in, enjoy yourself. Thank you so much again for the raid. These Sunday story streams are going to be a collection of visual novel and narrative-driven games every Sunday, just as a little weekend wind down, our own little prestige TV show once a week. I didn't know what to say. The woman who had come to the Agioscope so many times, who had seemed so interested in me and my way of life, had been hiding an entire function of my job from me? Why? It made no sense. The already foggy picture I had of Catherine in my mind was losing definition. I suppose I could start by just asking the others about Catherine. Be careful. That could raise suspicions rather quickly. Well, I am taking over her old role. It would make sense to everyone if I asked about her, I think. I should know the size of the shoes that I'm meant to fill. As long as you're careful to frame it that way. Of course. I just don't understand. Why would Catherine withhold my letters? The superior let out a heavy sigh and brought a hand to her temple. She looked as if she'd aged 5 years over the course of this conversation. I don't know. The more I hear, the less I understand. That's exactly how I feel. I know this is the right thing to do, but I was not expecting things to get this tangled quite so quickly. I'll do my best to untangle those things, Abbess. I tried my utmost to sound authoritative. Maybe I really was trying out new personalities. The superior gave me a tired smile in response. Bless you. Take a wander around the grounds and talk with some of the sisters. They should be taking most of the day for their work, but I'm sure they'll make some time to chat. I gave a little bow of my head and turned to leave through the large oaken door. I stepped out into the empty hallway. I had no idea where to start looking for people, but I realized now was as decent a time as any to explore the Abbey and get my bearings. Truth be told, I had no idea how huge this place actually was when I was in my cell. I had a few diagrams of monasteries and cathedrals in my books, but those were just little lines on a page. Now that I was actually wandering around an abbey myself, one that seemed to eschew the careful layouts I'd read about at that, I found myself marveling at the tiniest things. Most of the stonework was quite old. I'd noticed that some walls lining the path to the bath and the kitchen were in disrepair. I didn't quite know how to describe it, but it wasn't just dilapidation. Some parts of this place just looked older, squared off, less detailed. The chapel, for instance, while it certainly was very tall inside, it felt very simple. A big box, really. But as I walked around the grounds, I noticed that certain sections of the abbey were meticulously detailed. There were little flourishes on the corners of the stonework, bits and pieces that didn't seem to serve any particular function but certainly caught the eye. And then I thought, maybe that was the function. I hadn't seen many other buildings before, but I could immediately spot the difference between parts of the monastery. I reached for a comparison I could make. I connected it to books, of course. Some parts of the abbey felt like they had been built the way the Old Testament had been translated. Functional. Blunt. Constructed out of the bare necessities to make their point immediately. In the story of Alicia I was relaying earlier, the distance between the bears tearing those children apart and Elisha arriving in Bethel is 2 lines or so. Other parts of the abbey were much more majestic, pretty. Perhaps there's a structural reason for the way things look, but the look is what draws you in. You can gaze at it and ponder at what it means rather than just understanding its purpose immediately. Maybe it is just decorative. Maybe it's decorative and functional. Or perhaps the decoration is the function. It's long-winded and aesthetically interesting, like something Aquinas wrote. Romanesque versus Gothic? Well, yeah, that's exactly what I was getting to. I apologize for rambling. I'm trying to illustrate how my mind was piecing my new world together after being locked in a room for years and years. I suppose I'm the Aquinas between the two of us, aren't I? Not in talent, by God, but certainly in method. Hey, don't take God's name in vain, Hedwig. I know you're out of your little cell or whatever, but let's not go crazy here. That's okay. You can be Roman and I'll be Gothic. I took a turn I hadn't made before down some stairs. I trod carefully, still embarrassed about my little adventure with Catherine that morning. I realized I was stepping into the undercroft, which meant the cellars must be nearby. I wandered through the croft until I heard voices echoing around. They sounded strained. I followed them until I spotted barrels. Lots and lots of barrels. I walked through the rows of casks in awe. This was a lot of wine. I could see 2 figures ahead of me. Oh, hello, Hedwig. Hello, you two. Did Marta put you on cellar duty? Oh, no. I just came down here to talk to Flora. I was on cellar duty. Is everything all right? Oh, everything's just fine. We were just talking about chess. I'm very competitive, and sometimes I just raise my voice, I suppose. Yeah. Are you good at chess, Hedwig? I've never played, actually. Of course. What a silly question for me to ask. Who would you have played against? That's right. You can play chess against yourself. Well, where's the fun in that? You get to be alone, for starters. No, that's such a waste of time. There's no romance in that. Romance? The thrill of competition, the heat of battle. Chivalry requires spectatorship. To do battle not with swords, but with wits. Romance takes 2. Wow, you certainly do get passionate about chess. I can romance myself just fine. I do it all the time. Flora! Now you're just disrespecting the game. I don't understand. Well, anyway, Flora, I still demand a rematch. You'll face me on the field of battle of the mind, and I'll prove to you that your last victory was but a fluke. Fine. Whatever. If it'll get you out of my face. Tonight, we duel. Adela lifted up an imaginary sword, then twirled it and sheathed it at her side. Okay. Sure. Bye. Goodbye, my friends. If you're interested, Hedwig, I will teach you how to play one day. All you have to do is ask. She gave me a smile and left down the long passage of barrels. Come to think of it, I might have an Alexander Neckham book that mentions... I don't care. Right. I suppose that's something I could tell Adela sometime. What do you want? Oh, nothing. Just making the rounds. Saying hello to everyone, you know? So this is, what, your third introduction? Sorry. Flora huffed and leaned against the casks lined up along the back wall. Look, I'm sure you're really nice or whatever, but I don't volunteer down here for the conversation. Understand? You like to work alone. Finally, someone understands. Well, I'll be working alone a lot too, I think. So do you have any advice? Advice? Yes? Advice for working alone? Certainly. Well, for starters, you need to be by yourself. All right. And then, once I'm by myself, I like to do my work. Why are you asking me for advice anyway? Aren't you like twice my age? I'm barely a decade your senior, I'll have you know. Close enough. Marta had been right. I tried to change the subject to maintain composure. This is certainly a lot of wine. Yes, and as you can see, I have a lot of work to do. Alone? Is the wine here good? I wouldn't know. Okay, I haven't gotten to try any. This batch will be the first that Superior's allowed me to taste. We must have a large vineyard nearby. These aren't all ours. Oh, really? Where are the other casks from? I don't know. Some rich guy, probably. Maybe this is a good environment for wine storage. Good for bringing out the flavor or whatever. I see. Well, I shall leave you to it then. Thank you. It was nice chatting with you? Yeah, nice meeting you for the third time. I turned away to leave. I'd had just about enough of that conversation. I'd made it halfway back through the rows of barrels when I heard Flora call out to me. Hedwig, why did you want Catherine II's job so bad? I didn't. Really? Yes, I promise. I turned to look at her. She was eyeing me up and down. I tried to give her as defiant a stare as I could muster in return. It's a pretty weird way of showing it. Breaking a 20-year-old vow to take a dead woman's work. I wanted to tell her about Catherine's visits to my window. I wanted to tell her about how the Superior had practically forced me to do this. I wanted to tell her that I was trying to help heal the wound that was making her act this way towards me. But I didn't. I couldn't. If you want to put it that way, it sure feels like that's the way it is. How I'm putting it has nothing to do with it. So it must seem. With that, I turned around again and left the Undercroft. I wandered around the halls for a bit, trying to gather my thoughts. Adela was certainly passionate about chess, but was that really what the conversation I had walked in on had been about? Surely Adela had been here long enough to know Flora didn't like being bothered. She'd made that clear immediately to me, after all. It must have been something more important than that. No, this wasn't going to work if I started looking for reasons to suspect everyone every time I encountered them. I was going to need to strike a careful balance between searching for the answers and letting them come to me slowly. I'd go mad otherwise. Well, more mad.